I never planned on becoming wealthy. Growing up in a modest household where my mother counted every penny taught me the value of hard work and independence. But sitting here at my in-laws' mahogany dining table, watching my mother-in-law Vienna wave her diamond-studded hands while dismissing my career choices, I realize that sometimes the best revenge is simply waiting for the perfect moment. My name is Eleanor, and I'm what most people would call a part-time teacher. At least that's what my mother-in-law loves to remind everyone at these weekly family dinners. Really, Eleanor dear, Vienna says, dabbing her mouth with an embroidered napkin, I don't understand why you insist on working those measly hours at that public school, when Curtis makes enough to support you both. I catch my husband's eye across the table, but he quickly looks down at his plate. Typical Curtis, always avoiding confrontation. I enjoy teaching, I reply simply, taking a sip of wine. What I don't mention is the educational technology platform I built from scratch 5 years ago, now valued at 8 figures. Or the fact that those measly hours at school provide me with insights that keep my business innovative and growing. Well, Vienna continues, her voice dripping with false sweetness, we've been planning this wonderful family vacation to the Maldives. 3 weeks at a private resort. Judah's already made all the arrangements, haven't you, dear? My father-in-law nods, barely looking up from his phone. All set for next month. Curtis will handle your portion of the expenses, of course, Vienna adds, shooting me a look that clearly suggests I couldn't possibly contribute. I feel my phone buzz in my pocket. Probably Madeline, my best friend and business partner, with updates about our latest expansion plans. But I keep my attention on the scene unfolding before me. That's quite generous, I say, watching Curtis shift uncomfortably in his chair. How much are we talking about? Oh, just 30,000 per couple, Vienna waves her hand dismissively. A bargain, really, for what we're getting. Curtis already agreed it wouldn't be a problem. I nearly choke on my wine. Not because of the amount, that's pocket change compared to what my company brings in monthly, but because my dear husband hadn't bothered to mention this to me. Curtis? I turn to him, keeping my voice steady. When did you agree to this? He tugs at his collar, a nervous habit I've come to recognize all too well. Mom mentioned it last week. I thought, well, we could make it work. Make it work, Vienna laughs. Don't be modest, Curtis. You're doing wonderfully at the firm, and it's not like Eleanor's teacher's salary would have contributed much anyway. Sylvia, Curtis's sister, speaks up for the first time. Mum, that's a bit harsh. It's just the truth, Vienna insists. Someone needs to say it. Eleanor could be doing so much more with her life instead of playing teacher part-time. I feel a smile tugging at my lips, but I suppress it. If they only knew about the meeting I had yesterday with potential investors, or the Forbes interview scheduled for next month. You're right, Vienna, I say softly, watching surprise flash across her face. Someone does need to say the truth. Curtis looks up sharply, probably expecting me to spill everything. But I've learned that timing is everything, both in business and in life. The truth is, I continue, I need to excuse myself. I have some lesson plans to prepare for tomorrow. As I stand, Vienna's triumphant smirk tells me everything I need to know about what she thinks of me. Let her believe what she wants. Let them all believe what they want. Walking to my car, I finally check my phone. 3 messages from Madeline. Deal is done. They're offering double what we asked. Call me ASAP. This is huge. I start my car, thinking about Curtis and his family's vacation plans, about the joint account he has access to, which I've deliberately kept modest, about the separate account where I store the real fruits of my labor. My phone rings. It's Madeline again. I answer on Bluetooth as I pull out of the driveway. Eleanor, where have you been? This is going to change everything. I laugh, feeling lighter than I have all evening. Actually, Mad, I think everything's about to change anyway. Meet me for coffee. I have a story you won't believe. As I drive away from my in-laws' house, I can't help but think about how sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should watch out for. And sometimes The best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about revealing who you've been all along. The notification from my banking app came while I was grading papers at my favorite coffee shop. My hands trembled as I read it. Withdrawal, $65,000. Transaction approved. I immediately called Curtis. "Hey, honey," he answered, his voice artificially cheerful. "I was just about to call you." "Were you?" I cut him off. "Before or after you emptied our joint account?" The silence on the other end spoke volumes. "Mom said it would be better to handle it quickly," he finally mumbled. "You know, to secure the reservations and—" "Stop." My voice was quiet but firm. "Just stop, Curtis. You didn't even discuss this with me." "Well, you were on board at dinner the other night." I caught Madeline's eye as she walked into the coffee shop, right on time for our meeting. Her smile faded when she saw my expression. "Being polite to your mother is not the same as agreeing to spend our savings on her vacation fantasy," I said, gesturing for Madeline to sit down. "We'll discuss this later." I hung up before he could respond. Madeline slid into the chair across from me, concern etched on her face. "Spill it," she demanded, pushing my half-finished coffee aside and replacing it with a fresh one. "What did that spineless husband of yours do now?" I showed her my phone screen with the withdrawal notification. Her eyes widened. "He didn't." "He did." I took a sip of the fresh coffee. "And you know what the worst part is? He didn't even try to hide it. He just assumed I'd go along with it." "Like you always do," Madeline pointed out, then quickly raised her hands in surrender when I glared at her. "Hey, I'm just saying what we both know. You've let them believe you're this passive, struggling teacher for years. It protected my business," I defended. "You know how Vienna is. If she knew about the company, she'd try to sink her claws into it faster than she booked that vacation," Madeline finished. "I know. But Elle, maybe it's time." My phone buzzed again, a message from Emery, my tech assistant. "Major tech blog wants to feature our adaptive learning algorithm. Time-sensitive. Call ASAP." "The universe has interesting timing," I murmured, showing Madeline the message. She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with that look I knew meant trouble. "You know what would be poetic justice? Let them take their fancy vacation. Let them spend your joint savings thinking they're living large. Meanwhile..." "Meanwhile what?" "Meanwhile, we accept that Forbes interview we've been putting off. Time it perfectly with their return." She grinned. "Imagine Vienna's face when she sees your net worth splashed across national media." I should have felt bad about even considering it. But all I could think about was Curtis, withdrawing our savings without a word, Vienna's constant condescension, and years of being treated like I was somehow less than them. My phone rang again. Curtis. "Eleanor, Mum wants to know if you prefer the ocean villa or the beach villa," he said, as if the previous conversation hadn't happened. "You know what? Surprise me," I replied coldly. "Since you're so good at making decisions without consulting me anyway." "Don't be like that," he pleaded. Mom says, Mom wants, Mom thinks," I interrupted. "When was the last time you asked what I want, Curtis?" Another silence. "I'll be home late," I said finally. "Don't wait up." After hanging up, I turned to Madeline. "Make the call to Forbes. It's time." She was already pulling out her laptop. "And the tech blog? Tell Emery to set it up. We'll do both." I felt a strange calm settle over me. If they want to play with money, let's play. "Eleanor," Madeline said seriously, pausing her typing, "once we do this, there's no going back. Your in-laws, Curtis. Everything will change." I thought about the countless family dinners where I sat quietly while Vienna belittled my choices. About Curtis's constant deferrals to his mother's wishes. About the $65,000 that disappeared from our account without so much as a discussion. "Good," I said firmly. "Everything needs to change." As Madeline made the calls, I opened my private banking app, the one containing my real wealth, and smiled at the balance. Let them enjoy their vacation. Let them feel powerful with their stolen $65,000. They had no idea what was coming. Forbes is in, Madeline announced. They want to run the story next month. Perfect timing, I said, finishing my coffee. That's right, when they'll be returning from paradise. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about choosing the perfect moment to show your cards. And my hand? It was about to blow their minds. You're being awfully understanding about all this, Curtis said suspiciously as I helped him pack his suitcase. 2 weeks had passed since the bank account incident, and I'd maintained a carefully crafted facade of acceptance. What choice do I have? I smiled sweetly, folding one of his expensive shirts. The money's already spent. He paused, holding a pair of swim trunks. I know I should have discussed it with you first. Water under the bridge, I said, waving dismissively. Besides, you deserve this vacation. You work so hard. My phone buzzed on the dresser. Another message from Emery. Photographer confirmed for Forbes shoot tomorrow. Studio booked. Work? Curtis asked, eyeing my phone. Just school stuff, I lied smoothly. End of semester grades. The doorbell rang, saving me from further questions. Vienna's voice echoed through the house moments later. Curtis, Eleanor, are you ready? The car service is waiting. I watched Curtis's whole demeanor change, straightening his shoulders like a puppet on strings at his mother's voice. It would have been sad if it wasn't so infuriating. Coming, Mom, he called out, then turned to me. Are you sure you'll be okay here alone for 3 weeks? I'll manage, I said, thinking of my packed schedule of interviews, photo shoots, and final preparations for our company's biggest product launch to date. Don't worry about me. Vienna appeared in our bedroom doorway, immaculate in her designer travel outfit. Curtis, darling, we need to... Oh, Eleanor. Still in your teaching clothes, I see. I glanced down at my simple blouse and skirt. Just came from school. She pursed her lips. Well, Curtis, we really must go. The private car is charging by the hour. Of course, Mum. He grabbed his suitcase and gave me a quick peck on the cheek. I'll call when we land. Have fun, I called after them, following them downstairs. Spend lots of money. Vienna paused at the front door, turning to me with that condescending smile I'd grown to hate. Now, Eleanor, don't be bitter. Perhaps next time you can save up enough from your teaching to join us. I bit back a laugh. The watch on her wrist probably cost less than what my company made in an hour. You're right, Vienna. Maybe next time. After they left, I immediately called Madeline. They're gone, I said as soon as she answered. Operation Karma is officially a go. Perfect timing. I'm with the Forbes team now. They're loving the angle. Female entrepreneur revolutionizing education technology while maintaining her classroom roots. They want to make it a cover story. I sank into my favorite armchair, the one Vienna always criticized for being too modern for our decor. A cover story? That wasn't the plan. Plans change, Madeline said excitedly, especially when they find out your net worth and the impact your platform is having globally. This is bigger than getting back at your in-laws. This could take the company to the next level. My phone beeped, another call coming in. It was Sylvia, Curtis's sister. Mad, I have to go. Curtis's sister is calling. The nice one? Yeah, the nice one. I switched calls. Sylvia? Eleanor? She sounded hesitant. I wanted to apologize for Mum's behavior, about the vacation and everything. You don't have to apologize for her. I know, but... She paused. Something feels off about all this. The way you just accepted everything. It's not like you. I smiled. Sylvia had always been more perceptive than the rest of her family. Maybe I'm just tired of fighting, I said carefully. Or maybe you're planning something, she replied. Look, I know my mother can be horrible. And Curtis... Well, Curtis needs to grow a spine. Whatever you're planning, I want you to know I'm on your side. For a moment, I considered telling her everything, but the fewer people who knew, the better. Thanks, Sylvia. That means a lot. After hanging up, I opened my laptop to review the Forbes interview questions. My phone buzzed again, a message from Curtis with a photo of them boarding their first-class flight. Missing you already, his text read. I closed the message without responding and opened my email instead. The subject line from our PR team read, Forbes cover story draft, the secret billionaire teacher. Perfect. Let them enjoy their expensive resort. Let them post their luxury vacation photos. Let them think they've won with their stolen $65,000. In 3 weeks, they'd return to find out what real wealth looks like. And more importantly, they'd learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet one in the room. I picked up my phone one last time to text Madeline. Tell Forbes I'm ready for my close-up. Smile. The photographer adjusted his camera while I sat at my classroom desk, surrounded by student artwork and motivation posters. Perfect. Now let's get some shots of you actually teaching. The Forbes photo shoot was in full swing, and my students were loving every minute of it. I told them it was for an educational magazine feature. Technically, not a lie. My phone buzzed with another Instagram notification. Curtis had posted another photo from their vacation, this time of Vienna lounging on a private beach, caption reading, Living our best life, has our blessed assured luxury travel. Eleanor? The photographer waved his hand. We lost you for a moment there. Sorry, I smiled, putting my phone away. Let's continue. After school, I met Madeline and Emery at our company headquarters, a sleek office building that none of my in-laws had ever seen. The Forbes journalist, Sarah, was waiting in the conference room. Mrs. Owens, she began. Eleanor, please. Eleanor, she corrected, your story is fascinating. Building a billion-dollar ed-tech company while continuing to teach part-time. What drove that decision? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Curtis. Excuse me, I said, stepping out. Hey, Eleanor, you'll never believe what Mom just did. Curtis sounded excited. She convinced the resort to upgrade us to their royal suite. It's costing an extra $20,000, but... $20,000? I interrupted. Curtis, that's... Don't worry about the money, he said dismissively. Mom says we deserve it. Oh, and we're extending the trip another week. The resort had a cancellation. I gripped my phone tighter. Another week? With whose money? Mom's covering it, he said quickly. Well, technically Dad is. Anyway, got to go. We're having dinner with some resort owners. Love you. He hung up before I could respond. I walked back into the conference room where Sarah was reviewing her notes. Everything okay? Madeline asked, noticing my expression. They're extending their vacation, I said flatly, and upgraded to the royal suite. Emery whistled. Perfect timing, boss. Our new platform launch next week will probably pay for their entire vacation in about 3 hours. Sarah's eyes widened. Mind if I include that detail in the article? Include everything, I said, sitting down. It's time for the whole story to come out. The interview lasted hours. We covered everything, from building the company from scratch to keeping it hidden from my in-laws. Sarah was particularly interested in the current situation. So your husband has no idea he's married to a billionaire? None, I confirmed. He's currently spending what he thinks is our life savings on a luxury vacation with his parents. While you're here revolutionizing education technology, Sarah shook her head. This is going to be one hell of a story. After the interview, Madeline insisted we celebrate at our favorite restaurant. The private dining room was already set up when we arrived. To Eleanor, Madeline raised her glass. The most patient woman I know, and the best revenge planner. It's not about revenge, I protested, but couldn't help smiling. It's about justice, Emery finished. Speaking of which, have you seen their latest Instagram posts? He pulled up Vienna's account on his tablet. There she was, posing in front of a sunset, caption reading, Some people work for luxury, others were born for it. Born for it? Madeline scoffed. Wait until she sees your net worth on the cover of Forbes. My phone buzzed again. A text from Sylvia. Mum's going overboard with the spending. Curtis looks worried but won't say anything. Are you sure you're okay with all this? I typed back, trust me, everything's going exactly as planned. The magazine hit stands the day they return? Emery asked. I nodded. And the digital version goes live that morning. I've already arranged for a copy to be delivered to their house. You really have thought of everything, Sarah said, having joined us for dinner. Any regrets about going public like this? I thought about Curtis, so easily manipulated by his mother, about Vienna's constant belittling, about their current spending spree with money they thought would hurt me. No regrets, I said firmly. Sometimes people need a wake-up call. Well, Madeline raised her glass again. Here's to wake-up calls. And to watching karma do its thing. As we toasted, my phone lit up with another vacation photo. This time, it was Curtis, Vienna, and Judah in their new royal suite, champagne glasses in hand. Little did they know, their champagne toast was nothing compared to what we were celebrating. In 1 week, their borrowed luxury would meet my real wealth, and their perfect vacation would end with a reality check none of them saw coming. I smiled and turned my phone face down. Let them enjoy their last few days of blissful ignorance. The truth was worth waiting for. The sound of their car pulling into the driveway made me look up from my laptop, right on schedule. I'd been working from home today, waiting for this moment. The Forbes magazine lay on the doorstep, exactly where the delivery person had placed it an hour ago. "Eleanor?" Curtis called out as he opened the front door. "Oh." I heard the rustling of him picking up the magazine, followed by a sharp intake of breath. "Mom," his voice cracked, "you need to see this." I stood up, smoothing down my dress, and walked to the foyer. Vienna was already snatching the magazine from Curtis's trembling hands. "What is it?" She stopped mid-sentence, her perfectly manicured fingers gripping the glossy cover where my photos smiled back at her. The headline read, "The Billion-Dollar Teacher, How Eleanor Owens Built an EdTech Empire from Her Classroom." "Welcome back," I said calmly. "How was the royal suite?" Vienna's face went from tan to pale in seconds. Judah, still struggling with the luggage at the door, hadn't noticed the tension yet. "This is some kind of joke," Vienna managed to say, flipping through the pages frantically. "Curtis, tell me this is a joke." Curtis just stood there, staring at me like he'd never seen me before. "Eleanor." "What is this?" "That," I said, taking the magazine from Vienna's shaking hands, "is the truth I've been keeping from you for 5 years. My company is worth just over $2 billion now. The vacation you just charged to our joint account. My platform makes that much in revenue every few hours." "But you're a teacher," Vienna sputtered. "I am a teacher," I confirmed. "I'm also a CEO, an entrepreneur, and your son's wife, though that last part is currently under review." The sound of heels clicking on the porch announced Sylvia's arrival. "Mum, you left your phone in the—" She stopped, taking in the scene. "Oh, they know now. You knew?" Vienna whirled on her daughter. "I figured it out," Sylvia shrugged, walking over to stand beside me. Unlike some people, I actually paid attention to Eleanor over the years. Curtis finally found his voice. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would it have mattered?" I asked quietly. "Would it have stopped you from emptying our account without asking? Would it have made you stand up to your mother even once?" I didn't. Exactly. You didn't." I opened the magazine to the center spread, where photos of our company headquarters and success metrics were displayed. "While you were spending what you thought was our life savings, I was finalizing a deal that will put our educational software in schools across 3 continents. Vienna grabbed Curtis's arm. "Darling, surely we can—" "No, Mom," Curtis cut her off, surprising everyone. "Not this time." "I've had my lawyer draw up some papers," I continued, walking to my desk and returning with a folder. "You have a choice to make, Curtis. Either we begin marriage counseling and you start making your own decisions, or you sign these divorce papers and walk away with exactly what you thought I was worth, nothing." "This is preposterous," Vienna exploded. "Curtis, you can't possibly—" "Mom!" Curtis's shout echoed through the foyer. "For once in my life, please be quiet." Judah, who had been silent until now, placed a hand on his wife's shoulder. "Vienna, I think we should go." "But—" "Now." His tone left no room for argument. As they left, Sylvia lingered. "For what it's worth," she said, "I'm proud of you, Eleanor." Someone needed to shake things up. After she left, Curtis and I stood in silence, the magazine between us on the coffee table. 4 years, he finally said. 4 years of watching Mum treat you like you were beneath us, and you were worth more than our entire family combined. It was never about the money, I replied. It was about respect, about partnership, about having a husband who would stand by me instead of standing behind his mother. He picked up the folder with the papers. "And these are my only options." "Those are your options if you want to stay married to me," I said firmly. "I'm done being invisible, Curtis. I'm done being the quiet, accommodating wife. The question is, are you ready to be a real husband?" He opened the folder, staring at the papers inside. "The counseling. When would it start?" "That depends." I picked up my phone, showing him the screen with the counselor's contact information. "On whether you're ready to make your first independent decision as an adult." The ball was in his court now. After 4 years of hiding and 3 weeks of plotting, I'd finally played my hand. Now it was time to see if Curtis could play his. The first marriage counseling session was exactly as uncomfortable as I expected. Curtis sat rigid on one end of the couch while I occupied the other, the space between us speaking volumes. "So," Dr. Martinez began, "let's talk about what brought you here today." Before either of us could respond, my phone buzzed. Another hysterical message from Vienna. I silenced it without reading. "That's part of the problem right there," Curtis said, pointing at my phone. "Mum's called me 37 times since yesterday. She's convinced Eleanor planned this whole thing to humiliate our family." "Didn't you?" he added, turning to me. "No, Curtis. I planned it to make you see the truth." I faced Dr. Martinez. My husband emptied our joint account to take his parents on a luxury vacation, without discussing it with me. "Because I thought we needed the money," Curtis exploded. "How was I supposed to know my wife was secretly a billionaire?" "That's not the point," I shot back. "You shouldn't empty joint accounts whether your wife makes minimum wage or runs a Fortune 500 company." Dr. Martinez held up her hand. "Curtis, why did you feel you couldn't discuss this with Eleanor?" He deflated slightly. "Mum said... She said Eleanor wouldn't understand, that she'd try to stop us because she's always been financially conservative." "You mean poor?" I translated. "That's what Vienna always implied, right?" Before Curtis could respond, the door burst open. Vienna stood there, face flushed. "Mom?" Curtis jumped up. "How did you—" "Your secretary told me where to find you," she said, glaring at me. "I won't let you manipulate my son like this." Dr. Martinez stood. "Ma'am, this is a private session." "Private?" Vienna laughed shrilly. Like how she privately built an empire while pretending to be a humble teacher. Like how she humiliated us in front of everyone. "I didn't pretend anything," I said calmly. "I am a teacher. I'm also successful. The only humiliation came from your own assumptions." "Mom, you need to leave," Curtis said quietly. Vienna froze. "What?" "Leave. Now." His voice grew stronger. "This is between me and my wife." "Curtis, darling, you can't possibly—" "I said leave," he shouted, making everyone jump. "For once in my life, let me handle something without you interfering." Vienna staggered back as if she'd been slapped. I only ever wanted what's best for you." "No." Curtis shook his head. "You wanted what's best for you. What looked best for you. What felt best for you. Eleanor was right. I need to make my own decisions." After Vienna left, Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. "Well, that was unexpected, but possibly breakthrough material. Curtis, how do you feel?" He sat back down, closer to me this time. "Terrified, relieved, like I can finally breathe." "Eleanor," Dr. Martinez turned to me. "Your thoughts." "I'm proud of him," I said honestly. "That's the man I married. He just got lost somewhere along the way." My phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Sylvia. "Mum's having a meltdown. Dad's trying to calm her down. Also, I just read the full Forbes article. You're amazing. Can I see your phone? Curtis asked suddenly. I handed it to him, watching as he blocked his mother's number. Then he took out his own phone and did the same. I need space, he explained. From her, from all of it. I need to figure out who I am without her voice in my head. Dr. Martinez nodded approvingly. That's very insightful, Curtis. Eleanor, how do you feel about that? I think it's a start, I said, but we have a lot to work through. Trust to rebuild. I know, Curtis reached for my hand. I also know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one anyway. Why should I give you one? Because I love you, he said simply. Not your money, not your success, though I'm incredibly proud of you. I love the woman who grades papers until midnight, who lights up when her students understand a concept, who built something amazing while staying true to herself. I just forgot to show it. Dr. Martinez smiled. This is good progress, but Curtis is right. There's a lot of work ahead. Are you both committed to this? I looked at Curtis, really looked at him. The man who'd just stood up to his mother for the first time in his life. The man who was finally choosing me. Yes, I said, but on one condition. Anything. No more secrets from either of us. He squeezed my hand. Deal. As we left the session, my phone buzzed with another message, this time from Madeline. How'd it go? I looked at Curtis, who was already calling his father to explain his decision about Vienna. It's a start, I typed back. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's watching someone finally stand up for themselves. And for the first time in weeks, I felt genuinely hopeful about our future. 3 weeks after our first counseling session, Curtis asked to see my office. The real one, not the classroom where I taught part-time. I agreed, but with one condition. We'd have dinner with his parents first. Are you sure about this? Curtis asked, as we pulled up to the restaurant. They're your parents, I said. We need to deal with this properly. Vienna and Judah were already seated when we arrived. Vienna's usual designer outfit looked slightly wrinkled, her makeup not quite as perfect as usual. Curtis, she started immediately. You haven't answered any of my calls. Mom, he interrupted, pulling out my chair. We're here to talk. Actually talk. Can you do that? She pressed her lips together but nodded. First, I said, opening my bag, I want to return this. I placed an envelope on the table. It's a check for $85,000, covering the vacation expenses and the royal suite upgrade. We don't need your charity, Vienna snapped. It's not charity, Curtis said firmly. It's returning money that was taken without permission. Accept it, Mom. Judah reached for the envelope. We'll take it. Thank you, Eleanor. Now, I continued, let's address the real issue. Vienna, you've never respected me or my choices. Because you deceived us, she burst out, all these years pretending to be... I never pretended anything, I cut in. You assumed, you judged. You decided I wasn't good enough for your son because I chose to teach. Did it ever occur to you that I might have other dimensions to my life? The waiter arrived with water, sensing the tension and quickly retreating. Mom, Curtis leaned forward. Eleanor built something incredible while staying true to her passion for teaching. Instead of being proud to have such a daughter-in-law, you're angry because she didn't fit into your narrow view of success. Vienna's hand trembled as she reached for her water. I only wanted... What you wanted, Judah spoke up, surprising everyone. Not what Curtis wanted, not what was best for his marriage. Judah, Vienna gasped. He's right, Curtis said. And I let you do it. I let you manipulate and control everything because it was easier than standing up to you. That stops now. I pulled out another envelope. These are boundaries we need you to respect if you want to be part of our lives going forward. They're non-negotiable. Vienna stared at the envelope like it might bite her. Boundaries? Yes, Curtis said, like not showing up uninvited to our counseling sessions, not making decisions about our money or our time without consulting us, not dismissing Eleanor's career choices. And if we don't agree, Vienna challenged. Then you don't see us, Curtis said simply. Your choice. The waiter returned nervously. Are you ready to order? Actually, Vienna stood up abruptly. I've lost my appetite. Mum, no, Curtis. I need time to process all this. Judah remained seated. I'll stay. We need to fix this, Vienna. All of us. She stared at him in betrayal before walking out. I'm sorry, Judah said after she left. She's not handling the loss of control well. Is she ever? Curtis muttered. We ordered dinner, and the conversation gradually became less tense. Judah asked genuine questions about my company, expressing real interest in how it worked. You know, he said near the end of dinner, I always wondered why such a bright young woman would just teach, as Vienna put it. Now I see you weren't just teaching, you were revolutionizing how teaching works. That's what I love about her, Curtis said, squeezing my hand. She never does anything halfway. After dinner, we drove to my office building. Curtis whistled as we entered the sleek lobby with its modern design and wall of awards. This is incredible, he said as I gave him the tour. All those late nights you said you were grading papers. Some of them I was, I smiled. Others I was here, building this. We ended up in my office, overlooking the city lights. I have something for you, I said, pulling out one final envelope. More boundaries? He asked. No, divorce papers. His face fell. But I thought, we were working things out. We are, I said, but I need you to understand something. These papers represent a choice. Your choice. Every day you can choose to be the man you've been becoming these past weeks. Strong, independent, supportive. Or you can choose to sign these and go back to being your mother's son. Curtis took the envelope but didn't open it. Instead, he tore it in half. I choose you, he said. Every day I choose you. I smiled, feeling tears prick my eyes. Good answer. Now, he grinned, want to show me how this education empire of yours actually works? For the first time in our marriage, I felt like I could truly share all of myself with my husband, and it felt absolutely right. The autumn breeze rustled through the courtyard as I wrapped up my outdoor class session. My students were presenting their projects when I noticed Curtis walking across the school grounds, carrying 2 coffee cups. Mrs. O, one of my students called out, is that your husband, the one from the magazine? I smiled, watching him approach. Yes, that's him. The one who didn't know you were super rich. Amanda, her friend elbowed her. Curtis reached us, handing me my coffee with a grin. The very same. Though in my defense, she's very good at keeping secrets. Not anymore, I said, taking a sip. Class dismissed. Remember, presentations continue tomorrow. As the students dispersed, Curtis sat beside me on the bench. Ready for dinner tonight? Are you? I asked. It would be our first dinner with his parents since Vienna had walked out of the restaurant 2 months ago. Mum's been doing better in therapy, he said. Dad says she's actually listening now. My phone buzzed, Madeline calling. Hey, Mad, you're on speaker. The acquisition offer just came in, she said excitedly. They're offering 3 times what we expected. Curtis squeezed my hand. Take it. You've worked too hard not to see this through. Look who's becoming a business expert, I teased. Well, I did marry one, he laughed, even if it took me 4 years to figure it out. Later that evening, we arrived at Sylvia's house for dinner. She'd offered to host on neutral ground, aware of how delicate things still were. Vienna opened the door, looking different, softer somehow. Eleanor, Curtis, please come in. The dining room was set beautifully, and Judah was already opening wine. Sylvia emerged from the kitchen with appetizers. Before we start, Vienna said, her voice unusually hesitant, I have something for you, Eleanor. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and teaching supplies receipts. I donated to your old school district, she explained. Fully funded their teaching supplies for the year. I thought it might be a way to show I understand now. About the importance of education. About why you teach. Mom, Curtis breathed. Thank you. There's more, Judah added. Tell them, Vienna. Vienna twisted her napkin. I've been volunteering at the literacy center downtown, teaching adults to read. It's humbling and rewarding. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's wonderful, Vienna. I was wrong, she said quietly. About so many things. About you. About what success looks like. About what strength looks like. Sylvia raised her glass. To new beginnings? Actually, Curtis stood up. Before we toast, I have news too. He pulled out his phone, showing an email. I quit the firm today. What? I stared at him. I'm starting my own practice. Smaller, focused on helping educational startups with legal work. He smiled at me. Someone inspired me to follow my own path. Curtis, Vienna started, then stopped herself. She took a deep breath. That's wonderful, darling. Tell us more about your plans. As Curtis outlined his vision, I watched Vienna carefully controlling her natural instinct to take over. She was trying, really trying. Eleanor? Sylvia nudged me. You're being quiet. Just taking it all in, I said. A year ago, I was hiding my success to keep the peace. Now you're changing education globally, Judah raised his glass, while teaching my wife about humility and my son about courage. I'd say that's worth celebrating. To Eleanor, Curtis said, standing, who taught me that true strength isn't in what you hide, but in what you choose to reveal? To family, Vienna added softly, and learning to do better. My phone buzzed one final time, an email confirming the acquisition deal. I silenced it without checking. Some things could wait. Right now, watching Curtis beam with pride about his new venture, seeing Vienna genuinely try to change, feeling Sylvia's supportive presence, this was enough. I'd started this journey seeking revenge, but I'd found something better. Growth. Not just my own, but in everyone around me. Curtis had found his voice, Vienna her humility, and I'd found the freedom to be fully myself. To truth, I raised my glass, and to second chances. As we clinked glasses, I caught Curtis's eye and saw in it everything I needed to know. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's giving people the chance to become who they should have been all along. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's letting go of the need for revenge altogether.
I still vividly remember the scene from that morning. It was a quiet morning in Westchester County. The soft sunlight streaming through the windows of the grand white mansion danced on the expensive Persian rug in the living room. The shadows of the furniture cast by the morning light silently projected on the walls, as if guarding the mansion's secrets. Sophia, it's dangerous to run around like that. My daughter, a 3-year-old with golden curls, turned at my voice. Mommy, look, she said with an angelic smile, twirling in her new ballet shoes. Her movements were like a butterfly dancing in a spring garden. Among our family living in this mansion, Sophia's smile was the only genuine, pure light. Her movements were so graceful and elegant that I sometimes wondered if she had invisible wings on her small back. I am Abigail Green, 34 years old. Until 5 years ago, I was a maid in this house. Now I hold the title of a madam, but my essence hasn't changed. I'm still the same girl with long brown hair and gentle brown eyes who grew up in a poor family in Texas. My father passed away from overworking at a factory, and my mother still works tirelessly as a waitress. When I got a job at the Green household through a maid service company right after graduating high school, I never dreamed it would change my life so dramatically. While doing my morning routine of vacuuming, I sometimes pause to look up at the portraits hanging on the walls. They are the successive heads of the Green family. Their solemn gazes still make me feel like an outsider. Especially in front of my late father-in-law's portrait hanging in the second-floor hallway, I always find myself stopping. "Abigail, I'd like Darjeeling first flush for this morning's tea. And serve it with the scones that arrived yesterday." At the voice from upstairs, I instinctively straightened my back. Mother-in-law Eleanor, 68 years old. Born into a distinguished Boston family, she always keeps her gray hair tightly pulled back and embodies perfectionism and class consciousness. Her posture is always straight, and every movement exudes elegance. However, behind her eyes always lurks a cold vigilance. "Yes, Mother." As I responded, I remembered that fateful day 5 years ago, when I slipped on the stairs while cleaning. Carrying a heavy bucket, I thought I couldn't avoid falling, but in that moment, strong arms caught me. When I turned around, there stood Nathan, who was then the heir to this house. "Are you all right, Abigail? Are you hurt?" His voice was truly gentle then. My 45-year-old husband, though well-groomed in appearance, has an indecisive personality heavily influenced by his mother. Even while bearing the heavy responsibility as president of Green Construction, he can't hide his inner weakness. His deep blue eyes are filled with kindness, but also harbor an inexplicable loneliness. From that day on, we grew secretly close. I would secretly bring coffee to him when he worked late, or arrange accidental meetings on holidays. It was like a fairy tale, like living in a dream. In his study, he would tell me about architecture, and sometimes I would talk about my hometown in Texas. Through these casual conversations, we began to understand each other. However, when our relationship came to light, Eleanor's opposition was fierce. The words exchanged in the mansion's study still burn in my ears. "This is an outrageous misalliance. It concerns the honor of the Green family. We have supported Boston's upper society for generations." Eleanor's angry voice echoed among the heavy furniture in the study. Still, Nathan unusually defied his mother and decided to marry me. Behind his determination might have been a secret desire to escape his mother's control. The wedding was held in a historic church in New York. The guests looked at me in my white wedding dress with cold stares. I can't forget those stares even now. To the upper-class people, I was just a woman who made up the misalliance. My hands trembled slightly even when cutting the wedding cake. 5 years have passed. Though we live a wealthy life on the surface, my position in this house remains unstable. My relationship with the servants, my former colleagues, is also delicate. I, who was once in the same position, must now give orders as Madam. Each time, I feel apologetic and uncomfortable. Especially in the eyes of the elderly housekeepers who have served the Green family for many years, I can see their undisguised dissatisfaction. My husband is consumed by work and barely present at home. Even when we do see each other, he acts like a stranger when his mother Eleanor is around. Even on weekends, he's often absent, playing golf at the Westchester Country Club or socializing with business partners. During such times, I often spend time alone with Sophia in this too large mansion. In all of this, my only solace is Sophia's presence. Her friendly personality and smile so similar to mine are like a light in this oppressive mansion. Watching my daughter grow day by day makes me feel there's meaning to this life. "Mommy, are you taking grandmother's tea? I want to come too." Sophia's voice brings me back to reality. She approaches her grandmother without fear, with pure affection. Sometimes this even softens Eleanor's stern expression. I nodded silently and headed to the kitchen. While taking out Eleanor's favorite Wedgwood cup from the luxury cabinet, I sighed internally. The elegant floral pattern on the porcelain seemed to symbolize this house's glamorous surface. How long would this life continue? And where was our family headed under this pressure? Not knowing that an unexpected answer was approaching fast. Outside the window, the spring sunlight illuminated the garden flowers, announcing the start of a peaceful day. It was like the calm before an approaching storm. The invitation to Green Construction's 10th anniversary party arrived at the end of a peaceful spring. The gold-embossed letters on thick quality paper gleamed in the sunlight. A 7-day luxury cruise around the Caribbean. As I held the invitation, I felt an indescribable anxiety. It will be a wonderful cruise. When I turned at Eleanor's voice, she wore an unusually peaceful expression. However, something lurking in her eyes sent a chill down my spine. Recently, she had seemed to be plotting something. I would hear her talking on the phone late at night, or calling her secretary more frequently than usual. "Mommy, I'm scared of boats." Sophia clung to the hem of my skirt. Recently, she had been having dreams about boats and crying in the middle of the night. "It's okay, Mommy will always be with you." While embracing my daughter, I said this as if trying to convince myself. But the heavy premonition in my heart wouldn't go away. The oasis of the seas, docked at Miami Port, was like a floating palace. Its massive hull, over 340 meters long, gleamed in the morning sun. Passengers dressed in high-brand suits and dresses boarded one after another. Our cabin was a suite room on the top floor. The spacious balcony offered a panoramic view of the emerald green sea. However, in that luxurious space, new trials awaited me. "Abigail, what is that way of holding your knife and fork?" At dinner in the ship's restaurant. Eleanor's stern gaze missed none of my movements. "I'm sorry. And that outfit? It's not suitable for a party. As a Green family wife, you need to acquire more elegance." Nathan just silently listened to such exchanges. He was busy with meetings with company executives and had almost no time to spend with family. On the third day at dusk, we were having dinner at the restaurant on the top deck. Under the orange-tinted sky, luxurious course dishes lined the table. However, contrary to the gorgeous atmosphere, a heavy air hung over us. "Sophia, straighten your back. Eat more elegantly. What kind of upbringing is this?" Eleanor's criticism was aimed at us like arrows, one after another. Sophia clung to me with a frightened expression. And then it happened suddenly. "Poverty is not allowed in this family." Eleanor suddenly raised her voice. In her hand was a document. "I learned through investigation that your family has gone bankrupt. Your lower-class blood is polluting our lineage." "Mother," in front of Sophia. My voice was trembling. Curious eyes from surrounding tables were directed at us. That's when it happened. "Look, Sophia. The sunset is beautiful. Shall we go see it together?" Nathan suddenly spoke to our daughter in a gentle voice. There was something unnaturally sweet in his voice. He stood up and lifted the trembling Sophia. "Papa, I'm scared." Sophia whispered in a small voice, but Nathan pretended not to hear and walked toward the deck railing. "Here, Papa will hold you up so you can see better." In that moment, my spine froze. My husband's eyes held a cold light I had never seen before, as if foreseeing what was about to happen. "Nathan, that's dangerous." Before I could finish my scream, it happened. Ah! I slipped. Nathan slipped, as if calculated, and leaned against the railing while holding Sophia. With that momentum, Sophia's body separated from his arms and flew through the air. "Sophia!" My scream echoed over the twilight sea. Sophia's small body disappeared into the orange-colored water surface. "This is terrible. An accident. Someone help." The deck instantly became chaotic. My hands slipped. How could this? Nathan appeared to be distraught with skilled acting. However, in his eyes, there was certainly something like satisfaction. Eleanor also showed seemingly acted distress, saying, "How could such an accident? Life preserver. Someone get a life preserver." I ran around the deck screaming desperately. The hem of my expensive evening dress got in the way, making me stumble several times. But I couldn't stop. "A child has fallen into the sea. Someone, get a life jacket." Amidst the passengers' agitated voices, Nathan knelt there, covering his face with his hands. Perfect acting of regret. However, his eyes peeking through the gaps between his fingers seemed to be calmly observing the situation. Eleanor sat collapsed in her chair, pressing her white-gloved hand to her chest. Surrounding passengers rushed to worry about her. Among all this, I didn't miss the slight smile that appeared on her thinly parted lips. The ship's announcement rang out. "Emergency situation. Rescue team, urgently assemble on the top deck." Repeat. Uniformed crew members gathered on the deck one after another. They quickly organized a rescue operation. However, as the sea surface grew darker moment by moment, my despair only deepened. "Please tell us the details of the accident." The ship's security officer who rushed over began questioning Nathan. "I tried to show my daughter the sunset, got too close to the railing, slipped." Nathan's voice trembled and broke off. Perfect acting of a grief-stricken father. But as I watched him explain to the security officer, something inside me froze like ice. Every word he spoke seemed too calculated. "Sir, we'll need to create an accident report." A security officer approached Eleanor as well. She was now playing the role of a distraught grandmother perfectly. Clutching her expensive shawl, her shoulders trembling. Like she had practiced beforehand. And I was gradually beginning to understand the terrifying plan behind this accident. My husband's unnatural kindness, my mother-in-law's meaningful attitude, and Sophia's anxiety before departure, everything was connecting. This was no accident. They had planned to eliminate my beloved daughter. Floodlights installed on the deck illuminated each wave. The sound of rescue boats' engines could be heard from the darkness. I clung to the railing, desperately scanning the sea surface. "Please. Sophia." Through tears that distorted my vision, I continued to whisper my daughter's name like a prayer. And my whole body trembled with the premonition of the long battle that would begin from this moment. The nighttime sea was dark like spilled ink. Several rescue boats circled around the cruise ship, their searchlights illuminating the waves. 4 hours had already passed since the search began. Still nothing found. I made my 10th inquiry to the rescue team leader. My throat was already nearly dry, my voice hoarse. "We'll try expanding the search area." I could only nod silently at the leader's words. Leaning against the deck railing, I continued to stare at the dark sea. Inside the ship, Nathan and my mother-in-law were waiting in a separate room, accompanied by security guards. Their acting was beginning to show cracks. That's when it happened. "This is the hope. We've discovered a suspicious lifeboat. Coordinates are..." A crackling voice echoed from the ship's radio. It was a communication from a fishing boat. Confirmation from nearby police boat on patrol for illegal fishing. Response from the lifeboat. High possibility of survivors. In that moment, my heart leaped. Heading there now. All rescue boats, urgently proceed to designated coordinates. The cruise ship's searchlights all changed direction at once, illuminating the designated area. "There it is!" someone shouted. In the darkness, a cruise ship lifeboat could be seen floating. And something small seemed to be moving inside it. "Sophia!" I cried out involuntarily. The police boat approached the lifeboat first. When the flashlight beam illuminated inside the lifeboat, what I saw was my daughter, soaking wet but sitting firmly in the boat. "Mommy, help!" At the faint voice, large tears spilled from my eyes. The few minutes until Sophia was rescued by the police boat and returned to the cruise ship felt like an eternity. "Young lady, you did very well." When the police officer carried Sophia, wrapped in a blanket, onto the deck, I felt all strength leave my body. "Sophia!" I rushed over and held my daughter tight. Her small body was cold and trembling, but I could feel her definite heartbeat. "Mommy!" "Papa!" Papa tried to. As Sophia began to speak in a trembling voice, noisy voices started to be heard from the other side of the deck. "We've confirmed the security camera footage. There's no doubt." The ship's security officer's stern voice rang out. "Nathan Green, Eleanor Green. You are both under arrest on suspicion of attempted murder." Multiple uniformed officers put handcuffs on Nathan and my mother-in-law. The masks of their acting fell from their expressions. "This is wrong. It was an accident." Nathan's desperate excuses were futile as he was seized by officers and led away. "How dare we be treated like this?" Eleanor's voice had completely lost its previous elegance. The following weeks passed like a storm. The incident was widely reported, and the courthouse was filled with media every day. Calling Abigail Green to the witness stand. When my name was called in court, I felt my spine freeze. However, seeing my mother watching from the gallery and Sophia being held by shelter staff, I gathered my courage. "Please tell us in detail what happened on the deck that day." To the prosecutor's question, I slowly but surely began my testimony. About the days on the cruise ship, Eleanor's harassment, and the events of that fateful night. From the witness stand, I could clearly see Nathan and Eleanor in the defendant's seats. The two who were once full of dignity now hung their heads dejectedly. security camera footage was played in court. The footage from multiple angles on the deck clearly showed that Nathan's actions were no accident. The defendants intentionally put a young child in danger. The prosecutor's voice echoed in the courtroom. And they tried to make their actions appear as an accident. However, the security camera footage and testimony from over a dozen witnesses prove this was a planned crime. The trial lasted for months. During that time, Sophia and I stayed in a safe place under a victim protection program. My mother also came to support us. Defendants, please rise. On the day of the verdict, the courtroom was filled with tense anticipation. This court sentences the defendant Nathan Green to 15 years in prison. The defendant Eleanor Green is sentenced to 7 years in prison as an accomplice. When the judge's voice rang out, I quietly closed my eyes. It was over. And it was also the beginning of a new life. Holding Sophia's small hand, I was thinking. After overcoming this ordeal, we would surely find new happiness. 3 months have passed since then. In my mother's house in Texas, I watched Sophia's sleeping face. Why my daughter was able to return alive that night, the reason became clear a week after the incident. The place where Nathan threw Sophia happened to be directly above where the lifeboats were stored. She fell onto an old lifeboat from the impact of being thrown. The lifeboat, whose fixings had loosened with age, came loose from its weakened restraints from the impact and fell into the sea. Sophia had landed inside the boat and drifted with the waves. And fortunately, a police boat and fishing vessel on a legal fishing patrol were circulating nearby. The captain became suspicious of a lifeboat drifting in an unusual position and immediately went to check. The truth of the incident turned out to be simple. During interrogation, Nathan confessed everything. He had been completely controlled by his mother Eleanor since childhood. Living a life where perfection was constantly demanded as the heir to the Green family. For him, marriage to me might have been a secret act of rebellion. However, that rebellion didn't last long. Eleanor repeatedly expressed contempt for me, someone of different social status, every day. She particularly persisted in condemning my family's poverty. And finally, she said, that child's lower-class blood is polluting the Green family. Yes, it was all born from simple class prejudice and hatred, and actions of madness stemming from absolute obedience to his mother. We can't entrust the future of the Green family to a child raised by a woman with no money or education. Eleanor continued to assert this, pushing her mentally fragile son to the edge. Finally, Nathan completely surrendered to his mother's control and decided to sacrifice his own daughter. Now, I work at a mother-child support facility while starting a new life. Sophia has started attending a local daycare and is gradually regaining her smile. Mommy, are we never going back to that house? Sometimes Sophia asks this. No, we won't go back. From now on, we'll live near Grandma, just you and me. She nods with relief at my answer. Yes, we no longer need a glamorous life or keeping up appearances. We just need to live honestly with the ones we love. My mother visits every holiday, bringing homemade food. Abby, this is good enough. Your real happiness is in things like this. The smell of my mother's cooking from the kitchen brings back nostalgia. Yes, this is what a real family is. Outside the window, the sun sets peacefully. Life in that mansion now feels like a distant dream. But that's okay. Our new life has just begun, with modest but certain happiness. The Arizona summer sun beat down on the quiet residential streets of Scottsdale. I'm Emily Collins, and as usual, I was photographing the trees in my garden through my bedroom window. The sunlight illuminated the green leaves, which trembled slightly on my smartphone screen. Taking photos has become part of my daily routine. I'm always capturing moments, events at school, memories with friends, and most importantly, precious moments with my family. Lately, I've had this vague anxiety that I need to document everything important. My bedroom walls are covered with family photos, barely leaving any space. Last year's Grand Canyon trip, Christmas dinner, grandmother's birthday party. Every photo radiates with family smiles. My favorite is the one I took with grandmother 3 months ago, the day before she moved into the luxury senior home, Pleasant Valley Elder Care. In it, she's embracing me with her gentle smile. "Emily, breakfast." Mother's voice called from downstairs. Looking at the clock, it was 7:15 a.m. Just another typical morning. I pulled on my white dress uniform with a navy blazer, tied up my hair, and headed down the stairs. In the kitchen, my father Nathan was reading the newspaper while drinking his coffee. At 38, he's an accountant at a major firm who just received a promotion. His perfectly pressed shirt and meticulously tied necktie reflected his detail-oriented personality, which was highly valued at work. However, lately, the dark circles under his eyes had begun to mar his usually pristine appearance. His eyes, fixed on the financial section, showed an unusual tension. "Good morning, Emily," Father looked up from his newspaper with a gentle smile. But that smile seemed somewhat tired. "Morning, Papa." I sat next to him and started pouring syrup on the pancakes Mother had made. The familiar breakfast aroma filled the kitchen. Mother Diana was finishing up in the kitchen. At 36, she works as a real estate agent. With her sociable and cheerful personality, she's very popular with clients. Always dashing in her beige suit, Mother somehow manages to balance work and family life with a positive attitude. However, lately, something about her seemed different. This morning, for instance, her usually light movements seemed tense. Her hands lacked their usual composure as she cleared the dishes. She reacted overly sensitively to her smartphone notifications. Maybe it's just my imagination, but recently, both my parents seem to be carrying an air of being pursued by something. I'm in 7th grade. I excel particularly in science and English at Desert Mountain High School and am well trusted by my teachers. Especially Mr. Miller, my science teacher, says I might become a scientist someday. My keen observation skills are my pride. But more important than school life are my after-school visits with grandmother Martha. Grandmother has been living at the luxury senior home, Pleasant Valley Elder Care, for 3 months. A former high school English teacher, she remains sharp and insightful even at 75. She's my confidant and advisor. Her eyes still sparkle with youth when she talks about Shakespeare. However, her heart condition now requires 24-hour medical care. The facility is in the Phoenix suburbs. Although it costs $120,000 annually, the amenities are top-notch, and the staff seemed kind, at least initially. With its pool, spa, and library, it feels more like a resort hotel. "Emily, it's time for school," Mother's voice brought me back to reality. "Okay, got it." As I adjusted my uniform tie, I remembered last night. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I heard my parents talking downstairs. At an hour when they'd normally never be awake. Father's words, "We have to do something," and Mother's muffled sobs still ring in my ears. I also heard a phone ringing and Father repeatedly saying, "I understand." But what worried me most was the message I received from Grandmother yesterday. During weekend visiting hours, she gripped my hand tightly and spoke with a trembling voice. Her hands, usually composed, were unusually cold. "Emily, dear, I'm a bit worried about something." Her eyes showed a concern I'd never seen before. But she didn't explain further. She just repeated, "Be careful," several times. Walking down the facility's hallway, she kept looking back, as if afraid of being watched. In the car on the way to school, I checked photos of the facility on my smartphone. The luxurious lobby, spacious dining room, well-maintained gardens. On the surface, everything looked perfect. But in recent photos, Grandmother's expression seemed darker. There must be something hidden behind those smiles. "I'll go to the facility again after school. Surely, Grandmother has something she wants to tell me." I trust my observation skills. The changes in my parents, Grandmother's anxiety, they must be connected somehow. By continuing to take photos, I might get closer to the truth. With these thoughts, I passed through the school gates. The early morning playground was filled with wind announcing the start of a new day. The reddish-brown mountains in the distance created an unchanging landscape. This was how it all began. Back then, I couldn't imagine the gravity of what was about to happen to our family. How the peaceful daily life captured in those photos was about to change dramatically. That afternoon, I sat facing Grandmother in the facility's visiting room. The setting sun through the window gently illuminated her silver hair. But that light only emphasized her troubled expression. "Emily, would you look at this album?" Grandmother handed me an old photo album. The cover read, "My Precious Days," in her careful handwriting. As I took it, she glanced around warily. "Take your time looking. Especially." She lowered her voice, "Pay close attention to the inside of the back cover." As I flipped through the album, nostalgic photos appeared. Pictures of me as a baby, my parents' young smiling faces, family vacation memories. But remembering Grandmother's words, I carefully checked the back cover. There were several small sticky notes attached. Written in hasty handwriting were dates and brief notes. June 15th, Mrs. Johnson's ring disappears. June 28th, nighttime noises. Someone searching the room. July 3rd, asked to sign new will. July 10th, Mr. Williams, sudden illness. My hands trembled. This wasn't just a record. Grandmother was trying to expose something. "Grandma, is this?" Grandmother cut off my words with a small nod. "Emily, strange things are happening here." Just then, footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Grandmother tensed momentarily. After confirming the footsteps had faded away, she continued. "Last week, my pearl necklace disappeared. It was precious, inherited from my mother, grandmother's voice was filled with sadness. That's not all. At night, I sensed someone entering my room. They seemed to be searching for documents. I took out my smartphone and started recording her story. I placed it in my bag with minimum brightness, hiding it. Other residents are having similar experiences. But no one dares to speak up. They're scared. Over the next few days, I visited the facility every day after school. My smartphone camera was always ready to record any suspicious incidents. Walking through the facility's hallways, I made conversation with other residents. Under the guise of small talk, I gathered information bit by bit. Mrs. Williams had indeed fallen ill. I haven't felt well since they changed my medication, she told me weakly. One day, when the receptionist stepped away, I managed to peek at the facility's documents. Residents' personal information and medical records were poorly managed. I found a stack of documents with unfamiliar signatures, all dated recently. However, things rapidly deteriorated. Since last week, grandmother's condition had clearly changed. They changed my medication, she said. When I take the new medicine, my head gets fuzzy. Her words became fragmented. Her once sharp gaze was now clouded. Emily, if anything happens to me, grandmother clutched my hand. I entrust all these records to you. But be careful. You might be in danger too. Those words planted a cold fear in my heart. At home, the abnormalities continued. My parents' late-night secret discussions increased. Father's phone rang frequently, and each time he'd leave the room. Mother wore an exhausted expression, sometimes with eyes red as if she'd been crying. And last night, a decisive event occurred. Stop going to the facility. During dinner, Father suddenly declared this. His voice lacked its usual gentleness. But I'm worried about Grandma. Emily. Father's voice grew stronger. This is an adult matter. You shouldn't get involved. Mother just stared at her plate in silence. For the first time, I felt scared of my parents. That night, in my room, I reviewed the evidence I'd collected. Conversations recorded on my smartphone, secretly photographed documents, sticky notes carefully removed from the album's back cover. Everything pointed to something seriously wrong at the facility. But why were my parents staying silent? No, maybe. I trembled at the possibility I didn't want to consider. My parents might be involved in the facility's problems somehow. Outside my window, stars twinkled in the Arizona night sky. Though it was the same view as always, everything felt eerie to me now. Tomorrow, I'll go to the facility again. Even if I have to defy my parents, I must uncover the truth. To protect grandmother and the other residents. The next day, when I visited the facility despite my parents' warnings, I made a shocking discovery. In grandmother's room, I found an old recording device. True to her unfamiliarity with digital devices, it was a small cassette recorder. Emily, take this, grandmother held out the recorder with trembling hands. Don't let anyone see it, especially your parents. The urgency in those words sent chills down my spine. Her hands were cold, lacking their usual warmth. Back in my room, when I pressed play, at first only ambient sounds came through. The noise characteristic of old cassette tapes heightened the tension. But soon, a man's voice began. "Mrs. Collins, your options are limited." A low, intimidating voice. It was Michael Brown, the facility's deputy director. "Just sign the papers, and everything will proceed smoothly. Think about your granddaughter." Grandmother's voice followed. "This is blackmail. You're after my inheritance. I wouldn't recommend going to the police. They are understanding of our position." My hands trembled. This was decisive evidence. Estate fraud involving the entire facility. And the police might be involved too. Looking out the window, the twilight sky was ominously red. The recording continued. Conversations with other staff, threats to residents, and then, my parents' voices. "Nathan, Diana, we can solve your debt problems. However, there are conditions." I stopped the playback. My head was spinning. Are my parents involved in this too? My smartphone on the desk gleamed ominously in the sunset light. I immediately contacted my best friend Sarah. 11-year-old Sarah is my childhood friend and only trusted confidant. We've been best friends since 5th grade at Desert Mountain School, always eating lunch together. "Emily, isn't this really serious?" Sarah showed a worried expression through the smartphone screen. "Sarah, I have a favor." I filmed the recording with my smartphone and immediately sent it to Sarah. "Don't delete this data. It's important that you have it, even if something happens to my phone." "Okay, I understand," Sarah nodded without hesitation. "But the police." "I'm going to report it," I was determined. "But first, I want to talk to my parents. There must be some explanation." That night, an unexpected development awaited. Amidst the aroma of dinner lasagna, Father suddenly spoke. "How about going to Sedona this weekend?" Father suggested in an unusually cheerful voice. "We could use some family time." Mother agreed. "Yes, it's been a while since our last family trip." But there was something artificial about that smile. Mother's hands seemed to tremble slightly. Friday, 7 p.m. Our car was driving the mountain road from Phoenix to Sedona. As street lights became scarce, darkness gradually increased. In the back seat, I pretended to sleep while observing my parents. Father's driving hands showed unusual tension. "If she goes to the police, everything will be over." Father's voice echoed in the quiet car. Only the air conditioner's sound filled the heavy atmosphere. "It's for Mom's sake. We have no choice." Mother's voice trembled as if holding back tears. My heart was racing. Do my parents know I have evidence? My hands holding the smartphone were sweating. Then suddenly, the car shook violently. I heard the sound of brakes being hit just before a sharp curve. Instinctively, I gripped my seatbelt. As expected, it was loose. I quickly reached for the belt in the adjacent seat and clicked it secure. By then, the car had already lost control. On the dark road, the car was heading toward the guardrail. Mother's scream. The screech of tires. And then, the impact was smaller than expected. The car hit the guardrail and slid down the slope a few meters before stopping. Thanks to the newly fastened seatbelt, I only suffered minor bruises. The moonlight reflected in the windshield created a scene that didn't feel real. Ambulance sirens approached. Too quickly. As if they had been waiting. Red and blue lights eerily illuminated the dark mountain road. As I was being placed on a stretcher, I had made my decision. This accident wasn't coincidental. My parents, they had tried to silence me. If so, my last defense would be, "Miss, are you okay? Do you remember anything?" To the paramedic's question, I slowly shook my head. "I can't remember anything." With those words, a new battle began. By pretending to have amnesia, I had to protect the truth and my life. In the ambulance, I remembered grandmother's words. "Be careful, Emily. This world is much more dangerous than you think." The red siren lights cast an eerie glow on the dark mountain road. All the evidence remained on my smartphone. And on Sarah's phone too. This truth must be revealed. Staring at the white ceiling of my hospital room, I continued playing my role. A private room at Phoenix General Hospital. The scorching Arizona sun streamed through the window. "Emily, do you know who I am?" Mother looked at me with a worried expression. Her face, with makeup worn thin, showed deep fatigue. I slowly shook my head. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Even though it was an act, seeing Mother's face contort was painful. The attending physician suggests it's likely temporary amnesia from the accident's impact. The doctor who entered the room explained. Father just nodded silently. The dark circles under his eyes seemed darker than before. And then, as expected, another visitor arrived. "This is terrible." The facility's deputy director, Michael Brown, entered the hospital room with a pleasant expression. But his eyes weren't smiling. "Mr. Collins, how is your daughter's condition?" "Her memory, completely gone," Father's voice trembled. "I see." Brown's voice held a slight hint of relief. "Well, she's young, I'm sure she'll recover." Under the blanket, I was secretly operating my smartphone. The chat screen with Sarah already contained our plan. "I'll report to the police," as Emily said. "But we need to find someone we can trust." "I have all the photos and recordings of Grandma saved, so it's okay. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting with my uncle's detective friend. Don't tell your mom and dad." Sarah was more than a best friend, she was a reliable ally. A few days later, things began to move dramatically. First, grandmother was suddenly transferred to another luxury facility. Officially, it was for more intensive medical care. In reality, I later learned she had been placed under FBI protection. Then, the investigation into Pleasant Valley elder care began. Sarah's uncle's detective friend had obtained solid evidence. Beyond inheritance fraud, there was evidence of illegal drug administration, theft of valuables, and even police bribery. Everything was coming to light. I continued to play the amnesiac. My parents' expressions showed a mix of guilt and relief. Father's behavior at night particularly concerned me. I often saw him sighing deeply by the window of my hospital room. Then, 1 week after the investigation began. "Emily." At dusk, Father quietly entered my hospital room. Mother was with him. "We'll tell you everything." Father's voice trembled. The story went back 6 months. Due to father's failed investment and mother's real estate transaction troubles, they had accumulated huge debts. That's when the facility approached them with a deal. If they would sign documents regarding grandmother's inheritance, their debts would be erased. We refused at first, tears flowed from mother's eyes. But then they threatened that mom would be in danger. We thought we were protecting mom, father stared at his clenched fist. But in the end, we ended up hurting our beloved daughter. At that moment, I decided there was no need to continue the act. I remembered everything all along. My parents gasped at my words. The accident, Grandma, everything. A deep silence filled the hospital room. Emily. Father's voice broke. We're truly sorry. We failed to protect you. Mother held my hand. Her hand was warm. No, I squeezed both my parents' hands back. You were trying to protect Grandma, weren't you? I might have done the same. Fresh tears welled up in my parents' eyes. This time, they were tears of relief. Outside the window, the Arizona sunset was sinking in red. A new day was about to begin. The facility scandal was widely reported, and the arrests of those involved continued for several weeks. My parents cooperated with the investigation as witnesses, acknowledged their mistakes, and entered a rehabilitation program. Then, 1 month after my discharge, when I reunited with grandmother at the new facility, I had regained my genuine smile. Grandmother had recovered her intelligent expression and warmly welcomed us. Emily, you did well. Grandmother embraced me. Your courage saved all of us. The light streaming through the room's window gently enveloped our family. The path ahead might not be smooth, but we won't turn away from the truth anymore. That was the moment our entire family made this vow. 6 months have passed since the incident. Sunrise Senior Living, in Scottsdale's upscale residential area. This became grandmother's new home. Colorful flowers bloom in the spacious gardens, and yoga classes are held by the pool. Most importantly, the residents' expressions are bright. I visit here every weekend. Today too, I headed to grandmother's room with my beloved camera. Welcome, Emily. Grandmother was reading a book by the window. Her intelligent expression had returned, and her cheeks showed a healthy color. The shelves in her room were decorated with photos I had taken. Photos of peaceful days before the incident, and new memories after it. Arranged chronologically, these photos reveal our family's story. About that recent photo exhibition, grandmother began excitedly. My photos had been selected for a local young artists exhibition. The title was Moments of Truth. The photos I had secretly taken at the facility during the incident were recognized not just as evidence, but as works of art. Photos can't lie. Grandmother put her arm around my shoulders. You knew that important truth. Father and mother are now involved in awareness campaigns about fraud prevention in senior facilities as part of their rehabilitation program. Although paying back the debt is challenging, they're both moving forward. When I take photos, I always think I spoke to grandmother. At the moment I press the shutter, I have a responsibility to record the truth of that moment. Yes, you've become an excellent photographer, grandmother smiled gently. But more than that, you've become an excellent person. Outside the window, the setting sun was painting Arizona's mountains red. The sunlight is as bright as it was 6 months ago, but now it feels warm to me. Sarah is still my best friend. Our bond has grown stronger since that incident. We call ourselves the Justice Duo and report on social issues for the school newspaper. Emily, your father and mother are here. At grandmother's voice, I turned to see my parents entering the room. The dark shadows that once haunted their expressions were gone. Let's take a family photo today. I started setting up my camera. Setting up the tripod, adjusting the timer. I think I'll call this photo a new beginning. Just before the shutter clicked, I felt it clearly. The incident took many things from us, but it also taught us important lessons. The courage to see the truth, the responsibility to record it, and most importantly, the value of believing in family. In the sunlit room, our family huddled together. This is our new beginning. We might not be perfect, but we've become a family that can face the truth. The camera's shutter sound echoed quietly. The last rays of sunlight faded in the Arizona sky. I, Emily Collins, am certain. Difficulties will surely come again. But we won't run away anymore. Like photographs, we'll face every moment with sincerity. That was the most important lesson the incident taught me. Perhaps my story, at age 12, is truly just beginning. My name is Rachel Donovan. I live with my 8-year-old daughter Emma in a quiet residential neighborhood of Denver. I chose this peaceful area, slightly removed from the Washington Park district, not only because it's close to Emma's school but also because I felt its tree-lined streets provided the perfect environment for raising a child. As sunlight streams into the living room, I'm going through my usual yoga poses while mentally organizing today's schedule. Saturday mornings lack the rush of weekdays. Emma is allowed to sleep in a little on weekends. Looking at my daughter's peaceful sleeping face in her room, I find myself reflecting on my life. My career as an accountant at a major accounting firm is going well. I always keep my shoulder-length brown hair neatly styled and never miss my thrice-weekly yoga sessions to maintain my figure. My meticulous and responsible nature has been my strength in both work and parenting. But sometimes, this perfectionist tendency can work against me. It was probably one of the reasons for my divorce. Our 3-bedroom apartment isn't particularly spacious, but it's plenty of room for Emma and me. The living room walls are adorned with photos of Emma's ballet performances, and piano sheet music is neatly arranged on the shelves. These peaceful weekend mornings are my most treasured moments. Good morning, Mom. Emma's voice rings out while I'm meditating on my yoga mat. With brown hair like mine and big blue eyes inherited from her father, my daughter is always bright and energetic. She loves ballet and eagerly looks forward to her twice-weekly lessons. She also takes piano lessons once a week, but ballet is clearly her passion. In her dance attire, she looks just like a little fairy. Watching her always fills my heart with warmth. Good morning, Emma. Don't forget we're going shopping today for your ballet recital. Of course. We're going to look at the pink leotard, right? I really want to go to the store teacher recommended. Emma's eyes sparkle with excitement. Seeing her smile brings back memories of my ex-husband, Thomas. He must be proud of Emma's progress in ballet too. I met Thomas in college. It was in the economics department library while I was looking for an accounting book. He now works as a middle manager at an IT company. Tall and clean-cut with glasses, he's as meticulous and hardworking as I am, though sometimes indecisive. Still, we often agree when it comes to Emma's education. Our 8-year marriage was peaceful, but we gradually grew apart. His work-first lifestyle and our differing values became more apparent. Late-night overtime, weekend work, and then the possibility of a transfer came up. After long discussions, we decided to divorce. But for Emma's sake, we maintain an amicable relationship. Even now, we can sit together with smiles at school events. Though we share joint custody, I'm primarily responsible for raising Emma. Thomas regularly pays child support and splits the cost of Emma's activities. He never misses his twice-monthly visits or school events. I'd heard that post-divorce parenting can be challenging, but at least in this regard, I think we're managing well. Then a year ago, Thomas found a new girlfriend. Pamela Shepard. A luxury real estate agent. With her perfect makeup, clothing, and high-end brands, she appears elegant at first glance. I hear she's successful, handling high-end properties in the Cherry Creek district. But sometimes I catch glimpses of her controlling nature and perfectionism that worry me. Particularly, I feel uneasy about her attitude toward Emma. "Mom, what's for breakfast?" "Pancakes." Emma's voice brings me back to reality. Making pancakes for weekend breakfast has become our tradition. Cooking is another hobby of mine, and nothing brings me more joy than seeing my daughter's happy face. As I stand in the kitchen, the aroma of maple syrup fills the room. Yes, and I'll add blueberries today. But first, did you change your clothes and brush your teeth? Yes. All done. As I listen to Emma's reply, I review today's schedule. Shopping at Creekside Mall in the afternoon, followed by dropping off and picking up Emma from her piano lesson. Just an ordinary weekend schedule. At that moment, I had no way of knowing that this ordinary day was about to be disrupted by an unexpected event. Outside the window, morning fog hung over Denver. An autumn breeze gently rustled the curtains. While making pancakes in the kitchen, I casually glanced outside. A typical peaceful morning. I could see neighbors walking their dogs and enjoying their morning jogs. After breakfast, Emma was diligently practicing piano. Chopin's Waltz. Though not yet perfect, watching my daughter's serious profile warmed my heart. There was still time before our mall trip, but my meticulous nature prompted early preparation. I took a shower and applied my usual subtle makeup. Both blush and eyeshadow in understated tones. My business casual style doesn't change on weekends: a navy blazer, white blouse, and beige pants. Emma had also changed into an outfit she coordinated herself, excited about the ballet recital shopping. "Mom, is the store open yet?" Sitting on the living room sofa, Emma asks for what must be the 100th time. She keeps flipping through her ballet magazine on her lap. "Not yet, but it'll be perfect timing after we have lunch." I smiled as I answered. I wanted to cherish this small anticipation and excitement. Nothing heals the heart like a child's pure joy. At 2 p.m., we arrived at Denver Creekside Mall. The autumn sunlight reflected brilliantly off the building's glass surfaces. The weekend mall was bustling, especially with families. Young couples pushing strollers, elementary school children holding hands with grandmothers, teenagers shopping with friends. Emma pulled me by the hand toward the ballet supply store. The store displayed various leotards. From pastel pink to deep burgundy, colorful costumes covered the entire wall. Tutus and point shoes were beautifully arranged like something from a dream. Emma's eyes were filled with wonder. Choosing an outfit for the recital was a special moment for her. "Mom, what do you think of this pink leotard?" Emma held up a soft pink leotard with subtle sequins on the bodice. The fabric was high quality, with a subtle sheen in the light. "It looks perfect on you. I can't wait for the recital." I smiled genuinely as my daughter emerged from the fitting room. Watching her twirl in front of the mirror, she truly looked like a little ballerina. Her brown hair floating in the air, blue eyes sparkling with joy. After shopping, Emma wanted to stop at the ice cream shop. Though I usually limit sweets, today was special. I thought sharing these small successes and joys was an important part of our mother-daughter time. Sweet aromas filled the shop, and the colorful ice cream display caught children's eyes. "Mom, I want to show this to Dad. I think he'll be happy," Emma murmured while eating her vanilla ice cream. Small drops fell from her spoon onto the table. "Yes, let's show him during the next visit. I'm sure Thomas would be delighted with our daughter's growth." Our relationship had been stable lately, and he was always cooperative regarding Emma. The clock showed 4:30 p.m. Time to head home. We walked toward Block B of the underground parking garage with our shopping bags. The bright sunlight above ground gave way to fluorescent lighting casting bluish shadows on concrete walls. The sterile atmosphere typical of parking garages enveloped us. That's when I sensed something was wrong. As we approached our car, I noticed a man in dark clothes crouching behind it. He was well-built, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, a black hoodie, and jeans. Being naturally cautious, I immediately stopped. Instinctively, I felt something wasn't right. "Emma, wait." I instinctively grabbed my daughter's shoulder and stopped in place. I could feel the warmth of Emma's small body in my palm. The man must have noticed us, as he quickly stood up. I think our eyes met for a moment. Sharp eyes under thick eyebrows. But he said nothing and hurriedly left the scene. His footsteps echoed through the parking garage, eventually fading completely. The echo lingered, and those few seconds until it disappeared felt like an eternity. What was that person doing? There was anxiety in Emma's voice. Her small hand tightly gripped the hem of my blouse. "Emma, wait here. Mom will check it out." I positioned my daughter behind a nearby pillar, letting her hold the toy store bag. Though I tried to keep my voice calm, my heart was racing. Cautiously checking around the car, my heels clicking ominously. I could see something small attached under the rear bumper. Crouching down for a closer look, it was clearly a camera. Small and black, looking like professional equipment. The lens gleamed faintly. My heart started pounding faster. My hands were shaking, but I immediately took out my phone and dialed 911. The seconds until the operator's voice came through felt unnaturally long. My fingertips were cold. 911, what's your emergency? I explained the situation as calmly as possible. The location of Creekside Mall's parking garage, the suspicious person's description, and the discovery of the camera. Consciously trying to keep my voice steady, I provided as many details as I could. The operator instructed that police would be dispatched immediately and told us to wait there without touching the car. Looking at Emma, I saw her watching me with a worried expression. The afternoon's excitement about the ballet recital now felt like a distant memory. Under the parking garage's harsh lighting, I held my daughter tightly. I could feel her small body trembling slightly. While waiting for the police, various thoughts raced through my mind. Why was my car targeted? Who was behind this? Most importantly, how could I ensure Emma's safety? As a mother, I had to protect my daughter from this situation. But how? Fighting back panic, I desperately tried to maintain my composure. As fluorescent lights occasionally flickered, we waited for the police to arrive. The pink leotard in the shopping bag seemed painfully out of place in this surreal situation. The happy moments from just hours ago felt like a distant dream. At 5 p.m., 2 patrol cars arrived at the scene. Under the parking garage's harsh lighting, uniformed officers quickly exited their vehicles. Emma clung to me, watching the situation with wide eyes. Mrs. Donovan. I'm Detective Martin with Denver Police. A detective who appeared to be in his late 40s approached, with a kind expression. A young female officer followed behind him. This is the camera in question. Detective Martin carefully examined the rear of the car. His gloved hand pointed to the camera's location. His partner took evidence photos from various angles. With each flash, bluish shadows appeared on the parking garage walls. Let's move your daughter to a safe place. She'll accompany her. The female officer smiled kindly at Emma. But my daughter wouldn't let go of my hand. Emma, it's okay. Mom will be right there. I knelt down to speak to her at eye level, holding her trembling small hand tightly. The officers efficiently processed the crime scene. They requested surveillance footage and gathered witness information from nearby shoppers. I described the suspicious person in as much detail as possible. Baseball cap pulled low, black hoodie, about 5 feet 11 inches in height. This is quite a sophisticated camera. The technical officer examining the evidence spoke up. It has GPS capability and can be monitored in real time. Those words sent chills down my spine. Someone had been watching us. The thought made me feel nauseated. Mrs. Donovan, Detective Martin looked at me seriously. The perpetrator will definitely come back to retrieve the camera. Would you like to set up an operation tonight? The detective's proposal was clear. Move the car to a Walmart parking lot and conduct surveillance. Emma would be kept in a safe place while I wait in the car under police supervision. When the perpetrator appears, they would make an immediate arrest. But isn't that dangerous? My voice betrayed my anxiety. Don't worry. Multiple officers will be monitoring constantly, and we can respond immediately. Unless we catch the perpetrator, you won't be free from this fear. I thought deeply about the detective's words. He was right. If we let them escape, they might threaten us in another way. For Emma's safety, We needed to resolve this now. I understand. I'll cooperate. I called my mother and explained the situation. Fortunately, she immediately offered to help. She agreed to take care of Emma and supported my decision. "Mom, I'm scared," Emma whispered as we parted. "It's okay. This will be over soon. Mom will pick you up tomorrow morning." Though I wasn't trying to act brave, I could feel my voice trembling. 10 p.m. The Walmart parking lot was almost empty except for a few customer vehicles. My car was parked directly under a street light. As the light swayed, shadows moved eerily. Police vehicles were waiting at a distance, constantly monitoring the situation via radio. My nerves were stretched to the limit as I waited in the car. The engine was off, but I left the key in the ignition for a quick start if needed. An emergency transmitter borrowed from the police sat on the passenger seat. The street light swayed slightly. Not a sound in the parking lot. An eerie quietness typical of late-night parking lots hung in the air. Occasionally, I'd hear the sound of passing cars in the distance or shoppers' voices. But when those sounds faded, the inexplicable silence returned. Suddenly, a figure appeared in my rearview mirror. Someone was coming toward my car. A man in black clothes. Baseball cap pulled low. The same silhouette as the suspicious person from the afternoon. Holding my breath, I gripped the transmitter with trembling hands. I could feel my heart pounding violently. All I could do was stay still. The man's footsteps slowly approached the car. The sound of feet on asphalt seemed unnaturally clear. Then the man crouched behind the car. He was trying to retrieve the camera. At that moment, the headlights of all the waiting police vehicles suddenly illuminated. Bright light flooded the parking lot. Multiple officers ran toward the man with guns drawn. The man tried to escape for a moment but was quickly apprehended. I watched the scene from inside the car, stunned. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. But it was more from relief that it was finally over than from fear. Detective Martin approached my car. His expression was stern but somehow reassuring. "Mrs. Donovan, I'm glad you're safe. We've secured the suspect. You can relax now." I nodded slightly. But was this really the end? Who was this man? And why was I targeted? The questions were endless. However, right now, all I could think about was seeing Emma's face. Multiple police car lights illuminated the Walmart parking lot. The arrested man turned out to be a private investigator named Mike. According to police investigation, he ran a small detective agency in Denver. Under the harsh interrogation room lights, his face showed signs of fatigue. Ms. Shepard's request came 3 weeks ago. Mike reached for the paper cup of water on the desk. At first, it sounded like a simple background check. But her demands kept escalating. His testimony during interrogation was shocking. A request from Pamela Shepard. $5,000 upfront plus an additional $10,000 for decisive evidence. He admitted that he knew installing surveillance cameras was illegal but was blinded by the high payment. "Ms. Shepard wanted every detail about your daily life," the detective explained to me. "Especially how you spent the child support money and how you interacted with your daughter. She was trying to gather evidence that you were an unfit parent. Those words sent a chill through me. Pamela had been questioning my qualities as a mother, plotting to transfer full custody to Thomas. Her income as a luxury real estate agent was more than enough to hire a private investigator. Police immediately arrested Pamela. They found her in the middle of an elegant breakfast at her luxury apartment in the Cherry Creek district. At the time of arrest, she was wearing perfect makeup and expensive designer clothes. She seemed completely unaware of the gravity of her actions. "I've done nothing wrong." Pamela's attitude during interrogation was pure arrogance. "I was going to marry Thomas. For Emma's sake, we needed to provide a proper family environment." Her words filled me with trembling anger. Had she really been thinking about Emma? Or was my daughter just a tool to satisfy her own desires? The next morning, when I went to pick up Emma at my mother's house, she jumped into my arms. I had thought about her all night. What should I have done to protect this precious life? But now, I just wanted to celebrate that we were safe. "Mom, no more scary things." I nodded firmly at Emma's question. "It's okay now. Mom will always protect you." That afternoon, Thomas appeared at the police station. He said he came immediately after hearing about Pamela's arrest. His face showed deep fatigue. His usually neat appearance was disheveled, his tie crooked. "Rachel. I'm so sorry." Thomas looked straight into my eyes. That Pamela would do such a thing. I should have noticed her true nature. "You didn't know about her plans?" My voice turned cold without meaning to. "I swear I didn't know." Thomas covered his face with both hands. "She recently started talking about marriage, but I was hesitant because of Emma. Then she started saying things like, 'Let's create a perfect family.'" "A perfect family?" I gave a bitter smile. "Emma is perfectly happy in her current home." "I know." Thomas slowly raised his face. "I've ended everything with her. I was such a fool for not putting Emma first." Pamela was charged with serious privacy violation and stalking. During the trial, it became clear that her perfectionism and desire for control were the root causes of everything. Her anxiety about being childless at 46, her obsession with Thomas as her ideal man, and her deep-seated jealousy toward me. These things had driven her to the edge. "I wonder if that woman was just lonely," my mother mused later. "But that's no reason to hurt others." A month after the incident, the first cold winds of early winter began blowing through Denver. It was the day of Emma's ballet recital. In the audience sat myself, Thomas, and grandmother side by side. As I watched my daughter on stage in her pink leotard, I reflected. This incident had brought our family a new kind of bond. Thomas and I could now have more honest conversations. Emma, too, seemed to understand firsthand that both her parents would work together to protect her. It was a family renewal that came in an unexpected form. "Rachel." Thomas called out to me while we waited for Emma to change after the performance. "From now on, I want us to be true joint guardians. Let's do what we can for Emma." I nodded slightly. Outside the window, the first snow of the season was quietly falling. Occasional strong winds would stir up the snow. The scene reminded me of our lives up until now. When Emma came out from the dressing room, she was holding a single white rose. A gift from her father. In those pure white petals, I sensed a new beginning. "Mom, Dad, did you see? I didn't make any mistakes." Emma's eyes sparkled more brightly than ever before. We headed home with our daughter between us. This event would remain in our hearts not just as a memory of fear, but as a moment that reaffirmed our family bonds. My day always begins at 6:30 a.m. This morning, I woke up before my smartphone alarm went off. Next to me, Andrew was breathing peacefully in his sleep. I tied my long brown hair back with a hair tie, gently kissed his cheek, and started my new day. Standing in the kitchen, the morning sun streams through the sink window. It's been 5 years since we moved to this house in the Shadow Lane district of Newton. This white colonial is the perfect home for our family. The dew-covered front lawn is one of my weekend maintenance pleasures. On weekends, we host barbecue parties on the patio, cherishing time with neighboring families. I chose to work from home as a marketing consultant because I wanted to prioritize family time. My meticulous and organized personality helps me balance work and family life. I had already prepared the materials for today's 9 a.m. online meeting last night. While putting a bagel in the toaster, I remember the 2014 Boston Business Conference. That coffee break where I met Andrew. I was captivated by his impressive 5 feet 11 inches frame and intellectual conversation. As an investment advisory firm manager handling transactions from Boston to New York, he's away on business trips several times a month. But his family service during holidays is perfect. His unexpected gifts for me and Lily demonstrate his thoughtfulness. This morning began with the same tranquility as always. The soft sunlight streaming through the window brings spring warmth to the kitchen counter. It's the season when you can smell new buds. I woke up at 6:30 a.m. as usual and started preparing breakfast. Bagels and scrambled eggs for Andrew and Lily. Greek yogurt for me. On the table, cold orange juice gleams like morning dew in the glasses. A perfect morning scene. Yet somewhere in the corner of my mind, there lingered a faint anxiety. Perhaps it was because of the dream I had last night. "Good morning, Mom." Lily's footsteps running down the stairs dispel that anxiety. She's full of energy today too. Her Mason Rice Elementary School uniform gleams in the spring sunlight. "Good morning, everyone." Andrew joins us at the table with his newspaper. His refreshing smile completely erases the small anxiety within me. Another love-filled morning begins to flow. I have a math test today. I studied yesterday too, so I'm sure I'll get a perfect score. Lily happily talks while poking at her scrambled eggs with her fork. Her profile looks like a little angel. I can't help but smile. That's right. You reviewed thoroughly yesterday. Mom, this orange juice is so delicious. Our usual conversation echoes pleasantly in the kitchen. Andrew occasionally checks stock prices while nodding and listening to our daughter's chatter. How precious these ordinary morning moments are. Around 8:15, Lily starts adjusting her uniform collar. Her LL Bean backpack contains textbooks and writing materials, just as we checked last night. We've also done the final review for the math test. Lily, don't forget your scarf. It's still chilly in the morning. At the entrance, I do a final check of my daughter's appearance. Fixing her brown hair, checking her uniform buttons, readying her shoelaces. These little attentions are my happiness as a mother. I'm fine, Mom. It's time to go. 8:30 a.m. Our usual departure time. Be careful today. Good luck on your test. After a final hug, Lily left the house. While watching her walk away, I wave multiple times. She turns back, smiling and waving in return. That gesture remains vivid in my memory. As I was about to start preparing for my 9 a.m. online meeting, the phone suddenly rang. A familiar school number. The clock showed 9:15 a.m. Mrs. Mitchell. Your daughter hasn't arrived at school this morning. With those words, it felt like the world stopped. Blood drained from my face. My ears were ringing. What? But I definitely saw her off at 8:30. My voice was trembling. My throat was dry. Something might have happened on the way to school. Could you come right away? Yes, I'll be there immediately. With shaking fingers, I canceled the 9 a.m. meeting. My hands trembled as I typed the email, making multiple mistakes. I called Andrew, but there was no answer. He was probably in an important meeting. I left a voicemail message. Though I tried to keep my voice calm, I couldn't hide the panic. Andrew, call me back immediately. Lily hasn't arrived at school. While waiting for the taxi, various possibilities raced through my mind. A traffic accident. Kidnapping. Did she get lost? The more I thought, the worse my imagination grew. The few minutes waiting for the taxi with my wallet and coat grabbed from the entrance felt like an eternity. Outside the window, the peaceful spring sunshine continued as usual. A neighbor was tending her garden. A mailman cycled past. Everything was a normal morning, but my world alone was rapidly distorting. Jumping into the taxi, I desperately tried to remember the morning scene while watching the route to school. Lily's smile, her uniform collar, backpack, shoelaces, everything had been normal. Or was it really normal? Had I missed something? The streetscape reflected in the car window felt like another world. In the taxi following the school route, I clasped my hands together as if in prayer. Never had this 15-minute journey felt so long. Please be safe. My whisper reached no one. The taxi caught a red light, and that red signal only amplified my anxiety. As a mother, why hadn't I been more careful? Why hadn't I accompanied her to school? As waves of self-reproach washed over me, the taxi continued toward the school. When the taxi arrived at school, Vice Principal Mrs. Thompson was already waiting at the front entrance. Seeing my distressed state, she gently placed a hand on my shoulder. Mrs. Mitchell, let's stay calm first. We'll check the security camera footage. The hallway to the vice principal's office felt strangely long. The children's artwork decorating the walls, usually a heartwarming sight, now seemed oddly distorted. Mrs. Walker, Lily's homeroom teacher, would join us too. Her presence provided a small measure of comfort. The vice principal's office felt more suffocating than ever. The wall clock showed 10 a.m. While voices of children taking PE class could be heard from the courtyard through the window, this room alone was wrapped in an eerie silence. Mrs. Thompson operated the computer, and footage appeared on the large monitor. An intersection on the school route. Time, 8:45 a.m. A familiar scene spread before us in monochrome. Here it is. At Mrs. Walker's voice, I held my breath. Lily's small figure appeared in the footage. Wearing her LL Bean backpack, walking with her usual gait. Then, a high school girl appeared from the edge of the screen. A navy blazer and checkered skirt. A high school girl in a neat uniform approached Lily. My heart began to race. That's Newton North High School's uniform. Mrs. Thompson's words seemed to come from far away. In the footage, the high school girl was talking to Lily. My daughter stopped and began conversing with her. Without audio, we couldn't tell what they were discussing. But Lily's expression was smiling. Lily. My hoarse voice echoed in the quiet room. Then, in the next moment, an unbelievable scene unfolded before our eyes. The high school girl offered her hand to Lily, and my daughter took it without hesitation. The two walked off screen hand in hand, looking like sisters. Mrs. Mitchell. Mrs. Walker's voice brought me back to reality. But no words came from my mouth. My mind went blank, as if thought had stopped. We should contact the police. Mrs. Thompson's calm judgment barely kept my consciousness intact. Yes, we should. A feeble reply that didn't seem like my own voice. Mrs. Walker sat beside me and gently held my hand. I'll stay with you. Outside the window, children's bright voices continued to echo. A cloudless blue sky stretched overhead, spring sunshine pouring down. But my world felt enveloped in darkness. Why had Lily gone with a strange high school student? Why hadn't she shown any caution? Questions kept arising. But even more terrifying was the fact that my daughter had shown no resistance at all. While Mrs. Thompson called the police, I replayed the footage multiple times. Trying to memorize Lily's expression, the high school girl's features. Navy blazer, long black hair, slender build. Newton North High School uniform. This information kept spinning in my confused mind. The police will come right away. Hearing those words, I continued to stare at Lily's final smile on the monitor. Why hadn't I hugged her more tightly then? Such regret was squeezing my heart. The police officers arrived at the vice principal's office at 10:30 a.m. Detective Johnson and Officer Parker. They immediately began assessing the situation. While I explained with my trembling voice, Officer Parker took detailed notes. You mentioned a Newton North High School uniform, we'll verify that. Detective Johnson efficiently contacted the high school. Meanwhile, I showed the police officers photos of Lily. The many smiling faces saved on my smartphone. Just 2 hours ago, it had been an ordinary morning scene. Based on the uniform characteristics, there's no mistake. We'll now cross-reference with student photos. The police officers divided up to check the photo data sent from Newton North High School. Photos of female students appeared one after another on the monitor. I strained my eyes desperately. That black hair, slender build, gentle expression. Let's check the surrounding security cameras too. Officer Parker spread out a map, indicating camera locations along the school route. Convenience store corners, bank ATMs, intersection surveillance cameras. The watchful eyes of modern society had now become our hope. Here it is. My heart raced each time new footage was found. The backs of the two captured on the bank's ATM. Their profiles caught on the convenience store's security camera. Then a decisive piece of footage was found. They seemed to be heading toward Newton Free Library. The two in the screen looked just like real sisters. Lily appeared to be talking about something occasionally, looking up at the high school girl. Her expression showed not a trace of anxiety. Let's go to the library. When I got into the patrol car, my anxiety had slightly eased. At least, Lily was smiling. There were no signs of her being harmed. Still, my maternal worry didn't disappear. Arriving at the library, another team had already begun checking inside. We proceeded through the silent building, muffling our footsteps. As we climbed the stairs to the children's book corner on the second floor, my heartbeat became intense again. And then it suddenly spread out before us. In the soft sunlight filtering through the bookshelves, Lily sat next to the high school girl. A picture book was open in front of them, and Lily was intently listening to her read. Her expression was utterly peaceful. Lily. At my voice, both turned their faces. Mom. Why are you here? Lily looked puzzled. The high school girl beside her slowly stood up. Her expression showed no malice as we had expected. Rather, there was something like sadness in it. I'm sorry. The high school girl's voice left a strange resonance in the library's silence. At that moment, a woman in her 40s approached from the back of the children's corner. A librarian wearing a badge. Her expression showed a kind of resolution. Let me explain. The librarian's voice was quiet but firm. At that moment, I intuitively understood. This wasn't just a girl's whimsical action. There was something deeper, more complex involved. The police officers exchanged glances, seemingly grasping the situation. Detective Johnson began radioing headquarters. In the library's silence, only the clock's second hand ticked distinctly clearly. An hour after the truth was revealed in the library's conference room, we turned at the sudden sound of the door opening. There stood Andrew. His usual refreshing expression was gone, his face pale as he surveyed the conference room. Rebecca. His eyes caught me first, then moved to Hannah, then to Susan. The past he thought he had abandoned 15 years ago had become reality before his eyes. Dad. Hannah's trembling voice cut through the heavy air. I stood up and stared at my husband, no, the man I could no longer call my husband. Realizing that our happy married life had been built entirely on lies, anger and sadness welled up inside me. Why? To my question, Andrew stumbled over his words. The man who had met a woman at Stanford using the false name Michael Baker, then disappeared to escape responsibility. That same man had acted the perfect husband in my family. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Andrew's words of apology rang hollow. At that moment, Lily returned from the other room. Not understanding the situation, our daughter innocently rushed to her sister Hannah's side. Dad, look. This is my big sister. She read picture books with me. Lily's pure joy made the adults' expressions in the room twist complexly. Lily. Susan had desperately raised her daughter for 15 years. Working earnestly as a librarian, never resenting the past, living forward. That strength and dignity now seemed to crush Andrew. Hannah showed a complex expression, torn between her father and sister. The father she had searched for so long, and the sister she had finally found. I felt a pang seeing the hope and anxiety cross in the 15-year-old girl's eyes. What should we do now? At Andrew's weak voice, I coldly turned my back. An escape that began with one lie had now derailed so many lives. An irreparable mistake weighed heavy in the room's atmosphere. Yet seeing Lily's innocent smile and Hannah's hopeful gaze, it felt like this might not be an ending, but rather the beginning of something new. Outside the window, the spring sun had begun to set. Everyone felt that this day would be a turning point in all our lives. A week had passed since the shocking encounter at the library. On a peaceful Sunday afternoon, we gathered at a cafe in Newton. The first step toward calmly discussing the situation. The adults sat facing each other at a large window-side table. Lily was at the bookshelf corner with Hannah, looking at books. Everyone held complex feelings watching the sisters' close relationship. Let me start first. Andrew opened his heavy mouth. His meeting with Susan 15 years ago at Stanford University Library. At the time, he was staying on the West Coast to study investment. Using the false name Michael Baker, he lied about inheriting his family's pharmaceutical company. I was afraid of responsibility. At his confession, Susan quietly lowered her eyes. When she discovered her pregnancy, Andrew was already gone, and all contact information left behind was false. 15 years of desperately working as a librarian while raising Hannah alone. And then, perhaps it was fate, Susan continued. I got the librarian position at Newton Library and moved to this town. Time passed, bringing my marriage to Andrew and Lily's birth. A seemingly perfect family life. But when Andrew learned of Susan and Hannah's presence at the library, he chose escape again. Pretending not to know, continuing to turn away from the past. Without the DNA test, this would have. I cut off Andrew's words with a cold look. The DNA database where Hannah's grandparents registered for genealogical research. The relative matching that began there. Our family photos found on social media. The truth emerged in unexpected ways. I wanted to meet Lily, Hannah spoke quietly. When I learned I had a sister, I waited at the library every day. In our line of sight, Lily was showing Hannah a new book. The time flowing between the sisters seemed untouched by the adults' complicated circumstances. I have something to say too. I spoke with determination. Divorce was an unavoidable choice. But I wanted to maintain the children's relationship. Lily delighted in having a sister, and Hannah treasured time with her sister. No one had the right to break that pure bond. Let's make time for the sisters to spend weekends together. Susan quietly nodded at my suggestion. Though the adults were wounded, we would seek a new form for the children's sake. Perhaps that was our only atonement. Mom, look. Lily's voice rang out. Big sister showed me an astronomy book. The sisters' smiles slightly softened the cafe's atmosphere. The path ahead won't be smooth. Divorce proceedings, child support issues, visitation arrangements. Problems to solve pile high. Still, to protect the children's smiles, the adults must build new relationships. Every Saturday, at the library. Susan's suggestion became a concrete first step. A place where the sisters can spend time safely. The library she had preciously guarded for 15 years would become the stage for a new family story. Spring sunlight reflected and wavered in the coffee cups on the table. The anger and sadness hadn't completely disappeared. Yet watching the children's pure bond, feelings of forgiveness began to sprout little by little. From now on, I'll live honestly. This time, no one directed cold glances at Andrew's words. While we can't change the past, the future is different. There are things we adults can do for the children's smiles. In the Twilight Cafe, we were about to take a new step. Though not a perfect family, we would acknowledge each other's positions and prioritize the children's happiness. That was our answer, found through this trial. Next time, I want to go to the zoo, Lily's innocent voice rang out. That would be nice, Hannah nodded gently. Outside the window, the spring dusk was softly enveloping the town. A new family story begins here. Healing wounded hearts while moving forward, step by step, but steadily. That was the path we had chosen. 3 years later in spring, I'd parked my car in front of Newton Free Library. Saturday afternoon, as usual, I had come to pick up my daughters. Through the library's large windows, I could see Lily and Hannah. The two were still close, sitting in their usual spot in the children's corner. Today was special. Hannah had received her college acceptance letter. She had been accepted to Harvard University's Library and Information Science Department. She had chosen to follow in her mother Susan's footsteps. Rebecca. I turned to find Andrew standing there. After the divorce, he continued to change steadily. He had quit his investment advisory job and now worked as a financial counselor, helping single parents with economic support. The counseling appointment is tomorrow, right? He continues to attend family counseling once a week. His attitude of facing the past and trying to fulfill his responsibilities to both families was, at least, sincere. Yes. And this. He handed me 2 envelopes. One for Hannah's college tuition, the other for Lily's middle school entrance fees. It was proof that he had prioritized saving for the children's education, separate from child support. Susan says she'll finish early today. Susan, continuing to work as a librarian, had become the head of the library's children's department. The Sisters Reading Program she proposed had become a popular community event. We always have dinner together on weekends. The once awkward dining table now hosts natural conversations. Sometimes laughter can be heard. Though not a perfect relationship, each has found their role and walks forward. Dad. Lily came running from the library to Andrew. He gently embraced his daughter. Behind her, Hannah approached slowly, shyly showing her father the acceptance letter. Congratulations, Hannah. Tears gleamed in Andrew's eyes. I watched this scene from a short distance. Perhaps wounded hearts never heal completely. But the children's happy smiles gradually soften us adults' hearts. Cherry blossom petals danced in the sky. That day 3 years ago was in this same season. What I thought was an ending then, I now understand was actually a new beginning. Andrew now lives earnestly, fulfilling his responsibilities to both families. It's atonement, and perhaps also a new form of love. Though there's no perfect ending, we're each moving forward in our own way. In front of the library, cherry blossom petals continue to dance, as if announcing the beginning of a new season.